Yes, good afternoon, students. Welcome to Social Science 3. Uh, this presentation, or in this presentation, we are trying to prepare you for the upcoming examinations, which is slated for either April or August or November. So my name is Benjamin Nathaniel. I'm the tutor for Social Science 3. Let me first of all congratulate you for choosing this course and this institution. The important part of teaching social science is that you are sort of a glue between different students who are doing different things, who are coming from different backgrounds. So social science 3 is very important. As we go down here now, just general information about the module. You confirm you are of course sitting for social science 3, and this is the overall course credit. So you have 14 credits out of 547, which is for the whole course on Bachelor of Education Senior Primary, according to the information I have. So these are just general information. So we need to, in the interest of time, because we have many slides to come, we need to move on. The assessment, I will already assume that most of you have written the assignment that was due on 15 of January, but also there was also another time that some who did not submit now can already submit later. You have written an assignment out of 130 marks, and 50% of that will qualify you for the exam. Now 50% is of course 65. That is a simple arithmetic. But later then you have to write an exam again out of 130 marks, of which you will be required to pass with another 50 marks. Now the 250s, if you have a 50, if you get 100% from your examination and 100% from your assignment, that means of course you get 100% in the as a final mark. But what I'm trying to put here is that 50%, the final pass mark is also 50, which we calculate by getting 60% of your exam plus 40% of your CA, and then that brings your total final mark. Right. Like I said, the whole place of social sciences in the education system is really to understand the interdependence of people, environment, culture, history, and all issues that we call social in this social sphere. So if you have already gone through social science 1 and 2, possibly you already have seen this slide, because this is a sort of a generic slide for everybody doing social science, just to put everything into context. For example, if we have a population that is of 7 billion, and we expect the population to reach 10 billion by 2050, that's according to the United Nations population estimations. How do we already survive? How do we survive at 10 billion? Or how will that affect our birth rate or death rates? Because obviously, like you can look at it that as the population increases, whatever we try to do, we somehow the nature will try to control itself, because we cannot continue to grow until every person is standing next to a person. So because food will not be enough, and then that will reach. I mean, it will lead us into poverty. If you are poor, then it also creates tensions. It increases crimes. It it increases civil war. So all these things, it's really just about you. That's why you see all these points that you see here on this slide are somehow interdependent, because you look at how big is the Earth now, compared to our population. In fact, the population is already exceeding the capacity of the Earth. Um, there are some people who are saying at least we need already 2.5 Earth to cater for our current needs. So we are already as you train students in this area, they are now growing up into area which they will change now into maybe a little bit, some going to economics, some will go to geography, some will go to psychology, and all these anthropology and all these other modules, I mean other subject area that are stemming from uh, um, social sciences, not to leave political science and law and all this stuff, right? The course outline now, just to touch a little bit on it, is just to say really what are the aspects of living in global and local neighborhoods, what are the different kind of maps and weather forecast. So all these modules of social science are really what I would like to call complementary. So what you have done in social science 1 feeds in what you are going to do in social science 2. So knowing your social science 1 will of course increase your capacity for social science 2, 3, 4, up to 6, and so forth. So I'm not going to come to be too much. You can see the course outline. These are just the topic that I selected to put everything into a whole. Of course, if you have to go in your study guide itself, you see that there's a lot of topics, but it can be summarized into those main areas. So what do you focus mostly when it comes to chapter 1, for example? Okay, we said there we have aspects of living in global neighborhood, but what do we focus as we talk about issues of local and global neighborhood? So shared resources, pollution, and so for example, if we talk about how do Namibia depend on other countries for, say, trade or for water, you need to understand the linkages between countries, how we cannot, for example, produce let me say lead, or we have it as a resources but we don't have capacity. How do we, for example, talk to a country that can have capacity and use your resources and at least employ your people? But even more important is we are fortunate to be a landlocked, I mean a coastal country. So, and we have landlocked country such as Zambia and Zimbabwe and Botswana. So how do we use our access to harbor or to the sea or to the ocean to gain advantage or to gain some economic value to our neighbors who do not have access to the ocean and sea? But we have organizations also such as SADC, which control our 14 countries here, but also and in SADC then we have our agreements that says how do we support one another. A nice example of how economies support each other, of course, is in the EU, where they have really a lot of the leadership is sort of one, and all the resources are being shared equally. Those who have this can share with the other. So this is really the issue of local and global neighborhood. But even we might have access to the ocean, yes, but also for it, it's beneficial in its own, but also it's probably not beneficial in another area, because recently you have seen in the papers that our fish is being stolen by our northern neighbor, but also those who we don't see. So how about those who don't see? Do we have capacity to monitor all our resources, especially that are offshore, or how do we make sure that we protect it? But also pollution from, for example, other areas of the world can easily reach your fishing industry, because if you have an oil spill either from a ship or from a submarine somewhere else, or all these things, is how do we make sure that we have some global what I would like to call global policies or global legislations that, for example, says if you are in space or if you are in the atmosphere, do not pollute to this level. Or if you are in the ocean, the water that is not yours, or there's international water, there is a local water that is for a specific country. So this is really just to introduce to you how countries depended on each other, both for benefits, but also both to avoid some things such as war and other calamities. You have, for example, people try to cross the Mediterranean, but 100 people can leave our coast, or let me say the coast of Libya, but they will be intercepted by if the canoe or whatever they are in, they have to if they couldn't reach their destination, who comes? We have all these international rescues program, and other countries who have capacity or capabilities can really help those who don't. So this is just to open this whole idea of how the international community is assisting one another in making sure that the humanity progress into a positive role. Now, as I said, sharing of resources. Now, here I just put here regional catchment, sharing of resources. For example, here we are saying we have water that's coming from Angola, for example. How do we make sure that we regulate water that is passing through Namibia? If you look down here, this water from Namibia is feeding the what we call the Okavango Delta, which is in Botswana. So if we start extracting water all over here, how will that affect the biodiversity here? That's why we have, for example, Okavango Commission here, Zambezi Commission. We have the Commission for Orange River, where nations or countries that are affected or that are sharing those boundaries to come together and say, how do we share these resources? And that's really now what you call regional neighborhood. So this is just to demonstrate what I was trying to put together in the previous slide. In terms of transport, also I have mentioned about the local and countries with coast, like Namibia. We have a coast here. We have a harbor, for example. How do we support a country like Botswana through our countries like Zambia to give them access to the sea? But how do we also benefit from that through maybe co-financing of our road infrastructure, or co-financing of a harbor, and co-financing of actually everything in the value chain that will help us, especially SADC countries, to help each other. So that's just the road infrastructure that I was talking about when I was earlier mentioning about helping other countries that are not landlocked, right? I hope you understand what landlocked and not non-landlocked is. Yes. So other environmental concerns is also that if the countries now, this is just for our, if you look at our monitoring of our atmosphere, you go to the meteorological office of Namibia, the models that they are showing you that it's going to rain tomorrow or next week. So the sharing of this capacity also, it's not necessary that we are developing these things ourselves, but sometimes some country in Europe or whatever is developing a model, and then we just try all our best to adopt this model by adding little parameters that are not that are relevant to us. So global models are being developed, but here the emphasis is really now on clouds, because you'll be able to view clouds from space. So that's why this slide is entitled Global Environmental Monitoring. There's an L missing after for environmental there. So this is really just a point. You can see that this is a satellite that is from somewhere else. This is a path that is coming from Europe, and is probably going back again and come back. So, and then this satellite is mapping all this information that's also relevant to Namibia. This is Namibia, because you can see down here is minus 17 degrees Celsius. That is so that means it's toward the south. This is just latitude longitude. So, and it's coming from minus 5. Minus 5 is just a little bit below the equator, but it's really going down toward I mean, like around Windhoek here, because Windhoek is around the 17 when you go down from the equator. These lines are lines of latitude, lines of longitude that are shown here. All right. I have already mentioned about how do we make sure that we have global control, global legislation, global governance issues that are of global concern. That's why you have United Nations. It's what you call the global moderator for almost everything. But even under UN, you have now Food and Agriculture Organization. You have World Health Organization. You have International Monetary Fund. This is a Criminal Court. This is the United Nations Environmental Program, World Trade Organization. So all these organizations, they are there for global governance, because the issue of global and global neighborhood means that we need somebody to manage affairs that are of global concern. Because if you have an embassy in Namibia, which is from say US or China, it means that there are some diplomatic relations between the two countries. So if Namibia has an embassy in China, it means that if you send your student from here, and you have a student who have a problem in China, the student does not have to call to Namibia, but rather go to our embassy in China, and all these things will be solved like that. It's the same as if a satellite from China somehow fall out of space, or an astronaut or a plane fall here, that means that we have to notify the UN, and then the United Nations will talk to China, and all these diplomatic relations. That's really what we talk about here. Yes. So as we move now to map work, the unit 3 is really just to understand the Cartesian plane itself. How do we come? The origin of maps is really from mathematics. How do we make sure that we understand the lat-log, the longitudes and latitudes? Latitude and longitude data we are talking about. I mean, so if you see -5 and 14, how do all those numbers come from? This is what we are talking about here, and you can see, maybe you cannot see very well on the other side of this. This was the map of foot and mouth outbreak that I produced in 2015. So if you look at on the sides of that map, you can see that there is a line that goes down and there's a line that goes up. And there are some it's also the same here, but of course this will be the same number here. So if this is 0 here, so as you go to the negative or to the left, and as you go down here, you find negative values. Up here, I mean to the right, you find positive values, +1, +2, and also up positive values. So how do these numbers come by that you see on the side here? It means that the whole world is maybe if the US is here, North America, South America, Africa somewhere here, a bit of Europe and China and Asia, Russia somewhere here. So the whole world is divided into what we call that coordinate system. And then for somebody to know where Namibia is, because we then say, okay, this is the north, this is the west, east, south. So Namibia is definitely on the south east. So that's why our numbers, if we were able to look closely to these numbers, we have a negative on it and a positive on it, because we are going down here and we are going to the right. So if we were on this sphere, for example, what values will we have? We will have, because we are to the west is a negative, to the down is a positive, is a negative, so we would have negative values all along. And that's why you can see this one is a bit visible. The two yellow lines here are saying they are on the southeast, because it has a negative, which means that you are coming to the south, but it also have a positive, which means to the east. But if you look at here, this number, it means that it is a positive, and the positive, which means that it's in the northeast part of the sorry, hours, okay, of the globe. Okay, but this is just to appreciate the map work and the purpose of maps. You have a type of political maps, you have physical maps. So what are the purpose of map? How do you make sure, how do you differentiate the purpose of the maps and the components of the maps, which are also now said, for example, the map scale here, which says for this distance on this map here, on reality it represents 200 kilometers. But also the map legend, which says now, for example, if I show you this red line here, if I did not put it, you will not know that it's a cordon fence, the fence that that red line we talk about. But now at least you'll be able to say that, okay, this is a cordon fence, because you can see, and you also see that this red dot here means it's a town. And the map title, of course, is important. And you have the north arrow. Where's the north arrow here? That means that there's a mistake. There should be a north arrow anywhere for your orientation. That north arrow needs to be there. So if a map like that comes in your exam and say which component of the map is not there, you must be able to point that there is no map arrow, for example. Okay, the map scale and calculation, this is the same as we put in social science. Two, if you have that background already, you must be able to understand how do we use the map from, how do we bring the map from, or how do you bring feature from the real representation into a smaller area. I always like to say, if there was no scaling down of events, that means that you will need a paper which is the size of Namibia if you want to draw Namibia, so it becomes not necessary. But now we are saying, okay, no, I know Namibia is 1,500 kilometers across, for example, and I know my paper is only 30 centimeters across, but I cannot even draw the paper until the sides, completely until the sides. So I need to fit Namibia into a smaller area on my paper. So how do I bring that? I have to say, okay, for every 100 kilometers that is on the ground, I'll make it 1 centimeter on my map, so that you have to bring all the things equally down. Okay, so if you've done a few things in biology about magnification, if you have to draw a small insect or like an insect that's so small to draw on your paper, now you have to magnify it, because now you have an ant which is just too small to draw on your paper. So biologists then, or any other person actually draw, says, no, okay, I'm going to magnify this thing 10 times. It's actually almost the same as scaling down something to fit on your paper. Sometimes now you have something too small to fit on the paper, now you have to magnify it. Okay, for that, to know how to calculate the map scale, the first thing you need to know or to understand is conventions between centimeters and kilometer and meters and kilometers, because if sometimes the distance will be given in meters, you must be able to use similar or the same units, because it become ambiguous to use different units while you're measuring the same thing, because you can to say 1 centimeter is equal to 100,000 meters, and then you continue calculating down, it will become, sometimes you will miss to put the units on, and then it will be confusing. So the first thing that is always important, once you have distances that are presented in two different units, is always to put them in one in one unit, and then work with the same until the end. Okay, so you can see the rest of the text there is just for you to understand, but you can always come down to me. But this is require practice, and then only when you don't find the right answer that you need to come to contact me, and then we can at least try to work out. Very important also, you will be given weather data to either interpret or to set a question out, because that's why here I want to introduce you to some of the weather sources, primarily the meteorological service of Namibia, but there are also other weather information that I would like to share with you, but they are not here. Maybe we can have so, but for some of you who are able to email me your emails, please try to do that. I have my email at the beginning there. I'll also go there once the slides are over, so that we can have an email group where we can share some of this information. Especially, I have just worked with other weather data that I came across yesterday, and I didn't update it here because it was for another project. But how do we, for example, use your weather data to come up with a question that you can ask? Imagine you're asking your students, or to find out, you get a table there, you have to find maybe the maximum values, the averages, and all this type of questions that you'll be able to get. So that's just the website. That's the insert is a website from the meteorological office or meteorological office of Namibia, where you can also get some weather data for Namibia. That is just to illustrate for you that if you are given, for example, data like that, and one calculate the average rainfall for Windhoek for the 7 days. So you must be able to say, okay, what was the highest temperature? Is that one? Then it's a graph the rainfall. Is this one? I think there's a slide about the graphing in front of that we are going to reach. How do we take? Because sometimes you'll be told to graph all the two variables. The rainfall and temperature on one graph, not necessarily separate. So how do we go around with that? Okay, so now the part of geography here, the first thing again we have to look at is how does physical features influence human population. How people living to physical features like to rivers or to low areas that are not, Namibia, of course, the middle part of the country is more is elevated, so you have flat areas that are toward the north and the northeast, a little bit toward the east. So how do we interpret the population distribution and density based on the physical feature that we have? But how also do protection to protect our environment? This is a very I would encourage you now, if you can listen to download the Environmental Management Act of Namibia. That's Act number 7 of 2007, where there is a lot of how do you protect the environment. a few years ago there was a very big case about the phosphate mining. So people are using that act to say no, don't do this. I think there was another case just now in the Rongo region, where some company was delivering, I forgot the name of the product, from South Africa, and it was dumping it there apparently for a market to somewhere. So people are concerned about the environment, and these are the things you need to be doing or to be learning, so that you are able to instill this environmental consciousness in our learners. Okay, that's just a climatic region. If you look at the equatorial area there, you can see that a lot of people in Africa lives in that area. But this in its own already can be a question to say, name and describe 5 climatic regions in Namibia, or climatic zones, and just give a brief description of it. Of course, in Namibia we have only 3. Much of our area is arid, it's desert, and then we have a little bit of semi-arid, and toward the northeast, that's where we find a little bit of tropical, and that's just in the region of Kavango, Hangwena, maybe most of Kavango east and west, and a little bit of Chozonjupa, and then toward Zambezi. So for you to be able to interpret these things in terms of both population and also in terms of their own, but also in terms of animals and plants. What plants can be found where as the region, because in Social Science 3 we are being now opened more to look at the region as a whole, and not only to focus on Namibia or SADC or Southern Africa. Right. I like always to put to emphasize on the essay here, because you will obviously get a question that require you to write a little bit more text, either a discussion or essay itself. So just to focus on those 3, on those 4 things. Make sure that you put the title. This is very easy even for you just to go into a Google or something to say writing academic essay. This must be able to be well explained. But also, like I said, please send me an email that just says I'm Huhu at IOL doing this course. I want us to come up with an email group where we can at least share some of this information. Other features of academic writing is language coherence, using what you call lexicon devices, be able to say therefore, using words that translate into another a word like therefore, or in that line of thinking, or hereby, just word, and that's what's also coming on when it comes to critical thinking. Be able to link your previous paragraph with another one. So all these things is and I didn't put the factual information. You'll be able to please be able or be so much conversant with contemporary issues, and be able to present factual information as we go, as you write your answers. The understanding of verbs in question is also that is in your first part of study guide. There's probably around 20 possible verbs in question. Here I just put 3 to put your attention, but there is a lot, like discuss, compare, contrast, and evaluate. There's a lot of verbs that can be used in questions for you to so you must know when it says list, what are you doing, and all those. Plagiarism, of course, it's okay for the exam. It's a bit not very critical, but for assignment it's very critical. But for exam also, this is just to put your into attention that we are not going to tolerate somebody using somebody else's words as his own and try to claim or please look up for that book that is URQUND, just to look at what are they talking about plagiarism, and how offensive or how serious it is to to use somebody else's words and claim them as their own, as your own. Thank you very much, and we can. I'll take you to the beginning of the slide just for you also to if you did not get my email, just to look at it again, and then we can keep in touch. And good luck for your exams, good luck for everything else concerning your studies and your personal life, and thank you very much.